The Agenda with Steve Paikin is made possible through generous philanthropic contributions from viewers like you. Thank you for supporting TVO's journalism.
Tonight on The Agenda.
I ended up spending 20-odd years living in Toronto as an undocumented person without the ability to work or drive a car or attend post-secondary school, go see a doctor. So I've lived this experience.
Then, later on The Agenda.
It's a very male-dominated trade, and I remember even going to a cobbler shop and sort of introducing myself and offering just to be there to clean the space. I just wanted to be around that energy and the tools, and the gentleman shook my hand, and I ended up touching my forearm, kind of being like, you're not strong enough, so I don't think this is going to work.
It is unclear how many undocumented immigrants live in Canada. Estimates range from 20,000 to 500,000. Many of these are youth who were brought to Canada as young children, had no choice in the matter, and have no memory of their country of birth. Youth with precarious status or no status struggle to access public services such as healthcare and education. Who are these undocumented youth, and what responsibility does Canada have to them? Let's ask Sarah Pohl. She is Director of Childhood Arrivals Support and Advocacy Program at Justice for Children and Youth. Akil Augustine, producer and host with the Toronto Raptors at Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment. He is formerly undocumented. Arlo Kempf, Associate Professor at OISE, the Ontario Institute for Studies in Education at the U of T. And Stefan Enrique Joseph Kalikaden, Youth and Access to Education Coordinator at the FCJ Refugee Center. And it's great to have you four around our table for a very timely discussion here on TVO tonight. Sarah, to you first. What does it mean to be undocumented or to have precarious immigration status in this country?
That's a good question, Steve, and I'm glad you're asking, because I think there's a lot of confusion about it in Canada. For our purposes, being undocumented would mean to me that you don't have permanent resident status, you're not a citizen, and you don't have some kind of temporary status allowing you to be in Canada. So perhaps you arrived on a valid visa and that expired. And perhaps precarious immigration status might mean that you have some kind of permit, or you're allowed to be in Canada for a particular period of time, for a particular reason, or you're waiting for an application to be processed. But that could change, so there's no security in your situation.
Those watching or listening may have followed this debate in the United States, which gained a great deal of traction recently. People are so-called dreamers. They are the dreamers, named after the DREAM Act. Again, very similar in description. How are undocumented youth in Canada perhaps treated differently from the dreamers in the United States?
Well, I think the easiest answer to that is we don't have a DREAM Act. We don't have a national dialogue about young people who were brought here as children and have no status. We have no specific legislative protections for young people. And we don't have ways of thinking about them as valid members of society who are worthy of respect and security. So what that means is that because there's no DACA or DREAM Act, they're often locked out of really essential services that every other young person in Canada needs. So it creates a great deal of precarity and insecurity for them.
Akil, I do want to ask you about your personal circumstances, but I know everybody watching or listening is going to want me to first ask, what do you do with the Raptors?
A bunch of different things. I'm fortunate enough to be a sideline reporter for the in-game broadcast. I work sideline with NBA TV, with Raptors 905, as well as host the Raptors daily show and podcast, and a bunch of social media content. And I host Jurassic Park, and I work with the Toronto Maple Leafs hosting Maple Leaf Square. So that's kind of that part of my life.
Okay, my follow-up question is, can we trade jobs?
I don't know. I think you've got a nice gig here.
I do have a nice conversations. I do have a nice gig here, but I want your gig.
Okay, for one day.
That sounds like a ton of fun. You've got personal experience with this.
Yes, I do.
Where are you from originally?
I was born in Trinidad and Tobago, Port of Spain.
Came here at what age?
I came here first at 4, but I think I finally stayed after going back for a little bit, around 6 or 7.
And how does all of what we've been talking about here apply to you?
Well, I lived it. It's my lived experience. My parents and my little sister, they emigrated to the United States, and then they sent me and my eldest sister to Toronto because they felt there would be a better opportunity for us. Our visas expired, and I ended up spending 20-odd years living in Toronto as an undocumented person without the ability to work or drive a car or attend post-secondary school, go see a doctor. So I've lived this experience and had to negotiate and find ways to hide and at the same time get my education and put myself in a position to have, the job that I love so much today.
For 20 years you did that?
Yes.
Now, when you say you were undocumented, no passport, no birth certificate, what'd you have?
So I had a passport that had expired, and that was about it. Came here on a visitor's visa, I believe. I've never actually seen the visitor's visa. I was separated from my parents. There was no communication. And so I had left the responsibility to all of the paperwork to other family members who weren't as actively pursuing my status. And so at around the age of, I think, maybe 15 or 14, when my friends started to get part-time jobs, I became super curious as to why I couldn't get a part-time job or why I wasn't going to the doctor or the dentist. And slowly the information came to trickle out that I was, at the time, they called us illegal aliens. And that's what I found out. And thankful to the people over at FCJ, I was fortunate enough to have a best friend whose parents helped start that program, and they helped me a lot.
Could you get a driver's license?
I could not.
So what did you do for 20 years if you couldn't work, couldn't go to post-secondary? What'd you do?
I would love to be able to say everything that I did, but I think for a lot of people who are undocumented, you had to do things to survive, and you're put in a very vulnerable position. So you have to be very careful about what you share and what you tell. And even once you do get your papers, some of the things that you do have to, stay in the dark because there aren't a lot of protections, and you have to look out for yourself.
I can't let that alone, right? I've got to follow up on that.
Follow up. Go ahead.
Can you give us a hint? Give us a hint about what you had to do.
Well, first off, there's a lot of opportunities as a young person to work under the table. So you take jobs that you can do. I was a mover. I was a bar back at nightclubs like that. And then talk about getting an education. I was very fortunate to, slip through the cracks when it came to college. They didn't ask for my social insurance number. And then when they finally came around to asking, I had to drop out and then wait for a certain amount of time to pass. So I think it took me 4.5 years to finish a 2-year program at Seneca College. But, that was even a blessing in disguise because it allowed me to mature a little bit more. But there's a lot of hiccups, a lot of hurdles, a lot of secrets that you have to have if you're an undocumented person trying to make your way.
Amazing. Akil has basically explained his life story here, and it's absolutely fascinating. And we're thrilled that you're here today, and we're grateful for you sharing your story. I wonder, and he referenced FCJ in the middle of that, and that's where you spend your time. And I wonder how much you think the public knows about this kind of experience, which is sort of happening in plain sight, but not really in our midst. What do you think?
I think with the folks that we work with, I want to say, firstly, it's like a privilege being able to work with folks who are here with precarious status, because you get to learn and understand the intricacies and the hardships people have to go through because of issues with the system itself. Playing off on some of my own story, too, in this circumstance of how I got connected to FCJ in the first place, I, too, had a journey of precarious status. I came here as a visitor for a family funeral, then the pandemic hit, so we didn't get to go back before applying to study here. And then I followed every step the government had set out, but they made a mistake in every single application I had. So I had to manage my immigration status, go to school, finish it, graduate with honors in a community worker program, then get into a community setting where they made an issue again with my work permit. So I was left for 6 months without working status. So how do I navigate that precarious status while being an international student? Fortunately, I had family to back me up, but that's not the case for a lot of people. And oftentimes, I think the perspective is that folks come here on a visitor status and want to overstay and have some benefit from this country, but that's not always the circumstances. Had I not had that backing up of family, I would be here undocumented and not know how to figure things out.
So what'd you do for 6 months?
I had to just stay with family, volunteer, give back to the community. FCJ gave me that opportunity to volunteer, stay engaged. And as soon as I had my permit, I became the Youth and Access to Education Coordinator. So that experience working directly with community benefited me in terms of learning the precarities of my own status, how to defend myself, and then use that voice and experience that I gained to advocate for others in similar circumstances that might not have access to that information that I did.
Just take 20 seconds, Nick, because FCJ is a group that we've had members of on this program many times, and they do tremendous work. Tell us about what you do.
So I'm the Youth and Access to Education Coordinator. I work closely with the youth program that we have at the center that's been in functioning for over a decade now. And it is boasted on the fact that we welcome anyone who's a newcomer youth, regardless of their immigration status, and all of their needs. We're able to identify and work with them to empower them to have the knowledge of how to navigate that process themselves. By giving them the tools, we're putting the power in their hands to speak and bring their own voice to the forefront of the conversation.
Gotcha. Arlo, your connection to this issue is what?
So I've been researching through Sarah's organization, actually, student experiences of being precarious in the secondary classroom in secondary schools. And so that's been research developed with students with precarious status, trying to ask questions that can only be even formulated based on a deep understanding of what students are going through and how schooling feels, looks, and sort of acts for them.
Do you know in your classes who's documented and who's not?
So most teachers will not know. And in fact, to go even further and sort of span out a bit, most teachers won't know that there may even be people with precarious status in their schools. More broadly, this isn't a professional development conversation. It's rarely a union conversation. So it's a relatively unknown, yet hugely important piece of information for teachers.
We've heard a couple of examples here about how young people try to fly under the radar when they are undocumented. What would you add to that based on your research?
Well, I mean, Akil mentioned the secrets that get kept. And when we look at students' experiences, not only do we see a lot of secret keeping and as you say, sort of flying under the radar, but I think about it as strategic hiding. So students who are having to keep secrets in order to keep themselves safe. And those secrets have real impacts, not only on student well-being, but also academic engagement. So we see students, for instance, trying to avoid the honor roll because they don't want their name up in the hallway. We see students, well, if we think about extracurriculars, not only wanting to avoid a field trip for, say, a track meet, even though they might know that they're a very fast runner, but also just not wanting to be known as someone who's excellent because that makes you stand out. So there's these ways that people disengage. And then even further, I research race and education, and when we get into questions around, do you feel comfortable speaking up around social justice? If you hear something racist said in the classroom, do you feel like you can step in? If you hear a micro or macro aggression about immigrants or about undocumented people, do you feel you can say something? And we feel students have to, again, keep those secrets in a way that they feel is required to be safe in those classrooms. So the self-actualization, what it looks like to be fully and fulsomely included for students, that pathway is just another blocked pathway for a lot of kids.
If what you learned about this subject, for example, you learned by watching Fox News in the United States, you might assume that a lot of these kids who are flying under the radar are committing crimes, mayhem, not contributing to their communities, bad actors, et cetera, et cetera. How much of that's going on in fact versus the reality?
I don't think there's any good jest that that's going on at any rate higher in that population than any other population. And I'd go further to say that these are folks who have all of the best reasons in the world to avoid police, to avoid conversations where ID might be produced. So I think if there's any group you can count on to be wanting to fly under the police radar, it's these folks. And having said all of that, there is a danger of going into a conversation where we say, well, these are good people. And I would suggest whether or not a student is a good person, that's not really a question we ask about whether a student belongs at a high school. There's really mediocre students who are supposed to belong. There's bad people, they're still supposed to belong. So even the narrative around are these good people, that we can't get stuck on that for too long. But I think statistically, data-wise, there's nothing to suggest that these folks are involved in anything negative, I would say.
Gotcha. Yeah. Sarah, I want to put you back behind the pulpit here, and I'm going to ask our director, Sheldon Osmond, to bring up, we've got a few pictures here. Your organization has been, I guess, dealing with this project, a photography project, and maybe, again, we've got people listening to this on podcast who can't see the pictures, so maybe you could just sort of describe what, Sheldon, just leave them up for a bit and let's have Sarah voice this over.
So this project came about really to counteract this issue of secrecy and flying under the radar and a lack of a national conversation about these issues. Really, as Stefan was saying, trying to give some power and space back to young people who are living this, to have a sense of advocacy and to have their voices amplified. So it was fantastic to work with a photographer who is very talented, and our clients at the clinic were invited to participate if they wanted to. I think this is fairly terrifying for many of our clients.
Now, we should just say, these are pictures of so far young girls who are holding up books or something in front of their face to disguise their identity. But what's their backstory?
All of these folks here are clients from our clinic. And if they're a client of the CASA program, there's some kind of immigration issue that they're dealing with. So the act of coming into an art project, and even with their faces hidden, standing there and taking that space and feeling like that they're part of an advocacy program, has actually been huge for our clients. And for many of them saying, this is the first time I understood that there were other people like me. I've been so secret that I thought I was the only one. So being able to see photos of other young people has been a really empowering moment. So what we're hoping with this project is that other people will see it and it can help start this conversation. Like, let's have a conversation, Canada, about what it is that we owe young people in this circumstance and how do we want to be as a country for young people in this circumstance.
You saw we put one of the pictures in with that young person putting the Raptor jersey up over their face so they couldn't. We put that in for you, of course.
Shout out to Pascal Siakam. That was a nice little jersey there.
Pascal's with Indiana now and had a real nice playoff for a while.
Good player, great player, did a lot for us.
Spicy P.
Yeah.
Spicy P. Now, when you were undocumented, and as we suggested, sort of living in the shadows, did you have any sense about how many other people out there were living the same existence as you?
Well, within the Trinidadian community, it's almost, not to say a common experience, but there's someone in each family who was dealing with some kind of immigration issue because, we are an immigrant population. And I think I didn't really have a lot of friends or peers that shared my experience. I did have one gentleman later in high school who had a similar experience to me, but it wasn't common, it wasn't spoken about. We never saw programs like this on television. So I don't think that even if there were people who shared that experience with me, who would have told me about it or who would have been public about it.
Did you have an understanding when you were going through all that what you were doing was, I don't know, did you think, I'm illegal, I'm breaking the law, I'm in trouble here?
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah, you absolutely have to know that. I think one thing your family kind of reminds you of is that you are not like everyone else and you are in a precarious situation, so you need to protect yourself. You can't put yourself in a place where your friends do something wrong and you're asked for ID or to produce ID, and the point he made about not standing out in school, it's a risk-reward thing, right? Like, is the reward of getting an A or going on a field trip greater than the risk of being deported? And sure, maybe these are things that the average student would love because it increases their potential to get scholarships or to go to a special school. But for someone whose entire family is undocumented, you're shining a light on your family and people are going to ask for more information about you. And if you provide that information, they'll probably find out something that you don't want them to find out. So it's quite the balancing act of just kind of fitting in and, flying under the radar. So I think most undocumented kids, once they find out about the situation, are kind of trying to do that little dance.
We're going to touch on the education angle here, but one more question here. Did you purposely try not to do too well when you were in school, lest you stand out?
Yeah, I'm not going to say that, I was this great student or great athlete, but there was definitely an understanding that if I did excel in certain things, they'd ask. I played football, I played competitive football, I played competitive basketball, I ran track, and we knew that at the end of the year, the track team was going to go to Ohio or Michigan for a track meet, or my football team was going to go on the road for a trip. And I would usually quit the team before that event because you
couldn't get over the border.
Yeah, you don't want the questions. You don't want people asking, why aren't you coming when you're on the team? So you just pretend like there's something else going on and you step back.
Okay, let's get this on the record here. Ontario's Education Act says no one under the age of 18 should be denied access to education because they or their parents are in Canada unlawfully. That's what it says. Ontario school boards have various policies that follow this statute. And for example, here's something from the Toronto District School Board. And Sheldon, I'll ask you to bring this graphic up, and I will read it for those listening on podcast. All children who are qualified to be resident pupils of the board, including those who are without immigration status in Canada, shall be entitled to admission to school. All children shall be welcomed, regardless of immigration status, and information about them or their families shall not be shared with immigration authorities. Okay, Arlo, that's what it says in black and white. What's the actual practice?
I think the actual practice varies, but that very same document spells out a number of things, including the expectation that any questions from immigration authorities be directed to the director of the board, and that there be kind of a protective stance taken around students within a particular school and within the board in general. I think there's a gap between the policy and practice as it rolls out. There's also specifications for training for our staff and teachers in that document. And to the degree to which that's happening, I can't speak. Having said that, most teachers aren't aware, to my knowledge, and certainly the students we've spoken with don't have a sense that teachers are aware that this falls into what is their expected and required work. So there's a gap there. And all of these things require resources, right? It takes money and time and training to get teachers to a place where they know how to include. And I think one of the words that's mentioned in the document you brought up is welcome. What does it mean to have students be welcomed? And so what our research is trying to look at is, okay, you're in the door, you're in the classroom. Are you included once you're in there? How can we think about access in a 360-degree way? How can we think about access to be what gets attested to in the curriculum? How notions of citizenship get constructed in conversations? Who's made to feel welcome, not welcome? As has been mentioned, it's very easy for a lot of these students to talk about feeling criminalized, and the way that gets internalized, the way that gets represented is some sense of, even if they know they haven't done something wrong, they're made to feel they've done something wrong, and that you walk around with that. So there may be a policy that says welcome, but what does it mean to actualize inclusion and welcome?
Let me find that out from Stefan. In your experience, if you run into somebody who is of age to go to post-secondary, college or university, do they tend to go? Do they tend not to go? What do you know?
So Steve, it really depends on what their circumstances are, what they want to do long-term, and how they're navigating regularizing their immigration status alongside addressing their actual immediate needs of education. We are working on a project with newcomer youth that have had these experiences in accessing education, whether that's elementary, secondary, or post-secondary, and it's going to be published on June 14th. And the reason that this project is being led by the newcomer youth themselves is because they've lived this experience. We've had youth who are working on this project who have been here for 3 years, some 7 years, and some folks who we've worked with 12 years and more. And not having their status regularized means that, just like Arlo was saying, the policies exist, and the Education Act outlines what's supposed to be expected of all the school boards across Ontario, but that's not actually delivered.
Well, but I was going to say, that's elementary and secondary. That's not post-secondary. Mm-hmm. There is no entitlement to go to post-secondary if you're undocumented.
Yeah, so under the Education Act, there is no specific outline above the age of 18, and that could even be secondary in adult school age range. So it's really navigating with the schools themselves of what they'll allow to be passed and allow folks to enter. Or at the post-secondary level, there is a Sanctuary Scholars program that is at York University, and they started their first cohort in 2017.
So just tell me, this is the Sanctuary
Scholars
program
at York University.
So if you don't have a social insurance number, which if you're undocumented you wouldn't have, you can still go to York?
Yes. So the admission requirements for that program is outlined as folks with precarious immigration status. So they're able to speak to the program coordinator, navigate the process of getting into York. And they have 2 streams if they are right out of high school to go into the direct entry. So you are able to take almost any program at York, and other than the program coordinator itself, no one would know what your status is.
Do you pay tuition?
You pay tuition for the direct entry program, and you pay it at domestic tuition level, and you're able to work around your finances and take a reduced course load if that means that working, like Akhil was saying, a cash job or under the radar, you might not be able to afford going to a full semester fees course load. So they have the workarounds, and York has taken this on. And just last fall, Toronto Metropolitan University has extended a similar program. But we're trying to work on this sort of conversation at the collegiate level, because a lot of folks want to have that option of getting into the skilled trades to give back to Canadian society, and that option is not afforded to them right now.
Sarah?
Yeah, I agree. And actually, there's a program at Queen's University too, which is really interesting. And my point, I raised my hand because one of the issues about the finances is even with York's wonderful program and TMU's wonderful program, there's no access to OSAP. Mm-hmm. So the financial services that most young people need in Ontario to go to post-secondary are not available to these young people.
Well, okay. Can I put the, let me play the heavy here for a second. Because you know there are people watching or listening who are saying, wait a second, I mean, I'm paying taxes to support these institutions, and these folks are not, and you could argue that's a pretty good deal that you're undocumented and you still could go to York University or TMU. So what do you want to say to those folks?
The people we're talking about are here. They're residents, they're part of our society, and the choice of letting them access university and build their skills and expertise so they can contribute and have jobs here makes sense to me. We're not asking for them to be in any other situation than any other young person who's grown up here, right? This is the option is warehousing people with massive potential. And I wanted to peel back to the high school piece too. I agree with the policy you've put up there, that we have these wonderful, we do have a Thoughtful Education Act in Ontario that says everybody should be allowed to come to school. Where we see most of the problems, and we see a lot of problems at our legal clinic about access to grade in high school, it comes down to the next part of the Education Act, which is it tells us which students have to pay fees. So there's this entry, everyone can go, but if you're a temporary resident, you have to pay fees. And I think many people in Ontario, won't realise that, paying fees to go to a school board like the TDSB could cost a family up to $17,000 per young person. So that's where we have most of the challenges at the school board level. I think there's misunderstandings and misinterpretations of the Education Act and an ignorance about immigration law. So we have families who are perfectly entitled to go under the Education Act to school fee exempt, being told that they can't, and kids sitting at home for months, sometimes years, wrongly. So those are little kids.
Who's got 17 grand to send someone to high school?
I don't.
Yeah.
I don't.
No, if you're an undocumented person, that would be unimaginable.
So there's that fee level. I think there's all this confusion around who has to pay fees, who don't. And then even at the school level, it's hard. You think schools are busy places, and I respect that they're trying to balance a million things in one go. But that front desk, there's no interpretation services, there's no translation services for families who are trying to navigate a system that might be really different from what they know, and maybe coming on the back of a really traumatic migration situation. So it's hard to navigate in many ways.
Can I ask you, Akil, the feds have been talking for a long time about having some kind of regularization policy for undocumented immigrants. They've been talking about it for a long time now.
Yeah.
Presumably you would like to see that happen. What should that policy entail?
It's got to be streamlined. I can only speak from my own personal experience, and I know that in order for me to end up here on this desk with you, it took a lot of luck, being in the right place at the right time. It was serendipitous. And so...
Well, a lot of hard work on your part too, obviously.
Yeah. But I do think that it's not replicatable. Like, this is not something that we can expect young people to accomplish on their own. If it wasn't for me stumbling into the people at FCJ, if it wasn't for Jack Layton's office being a block away from my house and him writing me letters because I would visit him, if it wasn't for Cabby Richards from Sportsnet, allowing me to intern for 2.5 years for free. There are all these instances, my guidance counselor, right, the secretary at my elementary school. And I think the most important thing is that there's a systematized approach, some infrastructure that allows for people to be protected. Because the biggest thing is, in order for other people to find out that you're undocumented, is that risk of exposing yourself and exposing your family. And unless there's some kind of, buffers and protections for you, it's very unlikely that people are going to offer up that kind of information. So I think for me, it's just, I don't know specifically how they can execute a program like this, but I do know that it needs to be systematized and it needs to be protections for the people once they do expose themselves as being undocumented.
What would you add to that in terms of what you want to see from a regularized program?
Broad and inclusive, and centering children's interests. So making sure that when the government is thinking about this, how is it going to impact children? And also understanding that in some cases, children aren't going to be included in adults' applications, and they need to be able to make these applications in their own name and in their own right. So really this concept of who would be included and that it lasts, it's enshrined in legislation. We see some policies that are temporary, they end, they can be changed. We really need a pathway that we can rely on and that people can access over time.
I'd like to add something to that, because from my personal experience, I think we're having the conversation in the green room about some organizations needing the parents to sign off so that the young people can apply for status. Sometimes your family can be working against you. There can be people within the family structure who are taking advantage of these young people. And I do believe that these young people need to be able to speak up for themselves.
Without parental
Absolutely.
involvement.
I do believe it's very important, because you don't know who behind the scenes is taking advantage of these young people and what they actually want for this young person. I myself was fortunate enough that I could have done the program by myself, because at 18, I started my paperwork. But for someone younger who's understanding their situation, their parents may not want this for them, right? There may be some advantage that they're gaining, or their guardian may be gaining some advantage and taking advantage of them. So I think it's very important these young people have the right to work as individuals and to apply as individuals without, that signature from their legal guardian.
Let me, can we get this on the record, Sheldon? Bottom page 4 here. We're just going to get the ministry's comments about this. This is from Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada, that reads in part, this is the statement we got from them. Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada is exploring options for regularizing the status of undocumented individuals who are contributing to Canadian communities. IRCC has been engaging with academic experts and stakeholders to support this work. As we advance our work, we will continue listening to experts as well as undocumented migrants themselves. IRCC will also be informing our future policy decisions based on the lessons learned through recent innovative regularization initiatives, including the out-of-status construction workers pilot. Okay, that sounds fine. Arlo, I mean, it's a bit bureaucratic, but what do you infer from that?
Well, I think there are big considerations around labor market and what work and narratives around work that Canadians will and won't do, and conversations around wages that need to have happen. But ultimately, whatever that pathway looks like, I think we have to consider if the government or we or some version of Canada is extending an invitation, what is that an invitation to? You say, well, now there's a regularization pathway. What of, deep racism? What of deep sort of embedded forms of discrimination and exclusion that still exist? So these things have to happen, and at the same time, we have to consider the space into which regularized folks might be being invited and how to make that more inclusive, and that includes schooling.
Sarah, last word to you. Does this sound like we're on the path that you just described?
I'm not sure it's going to be as broad and as inclusive as we need. I think it may be tied more to particular jobs or industries, which is fantastic for those people. But I don't know that it's going to meet the needs of children who are not workers. They're not going to be able to prove these things. So I am really hopeful. The government's been talking about it for a long time. They have taken some steps recently to create some really specific programs, specifically one that provides a pathway to permanent residence for young people who've previously been in state care, which is a huge deal, but it's a tiny group of the young people we're talking about.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
I feel the last thing we need to do is to confirm for people that is not a British accent, that is not a South African accent, that is not an Australian accent. She's from New Zealand. There we go.
Thank you.
Because I know people are going to want to know. That's Sarah Pohl and Arlo Kempf on that side of the table, he from Oisey. And on the other side of the table, Akil Augustine and Stefan, Enrique, Joseph, Kalikaden. Great to have everybody here around our table at TVO tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
My name is Murali Sri Narayana Das, and I'm an entrepreneur. I'm the chair of 369 Global. We're a group of companies in the education space, in the media space, and we do global training. There's a lot of supports that Canada provides in terms of training and education for newcomers as we come here. I think that's fantastic. I think there also needs to be a lot of training and support for the organizations, Canadian organizations, as they welcome newcomers to Canada and into their organizations. Finally, I think on the government side, clarity and empathy. clarity on immigration policies as we think about pathways for immigrants coming to Canada, foreign credential recognition or clear pathways to foreign credential recognition, and empathy. I think there's a lot of newcomers, I know there's a lot of newcomers that come in challenging environments, and we have done it in the past, and I hope Canada continues to lead with empathy in regards to immigration.
When people come and visit the studio, they're like, what is this place? I've never seen this machinery. It invokes this like excitement in myself and this like curiosity again of like, oh yeah, like I get to do this every day. That's so cool. And I work with like these tools that are older than I am. My name is Lorena Agoli, and I'm the owner and head cobbler of Soul Survivor, where we're currently at. I started apprenticing with a shoemaker about 12 years ago to like learn the trade of shoemaking. And I fell into this all kind of by accident. I always had that inkling of wanting to have my own thing. I just never knew what it was. My mom was very creative. She's an artist and a DIYer. So that world of just creating was so intriguing to me, but I never thought that I would actually make a career of it or even become a cobbler. So it was really like a happy accident that I found something that I fell so in love with, and it really woke me up in a dark time. When something comes in, as simple as like removing salt stains of upper, that sometimes I'm just like, yes, the shoe was terrible. It was like scratchy, hard, and I got it to be like soft and supple again, and it's shiny, you know? Sometimes that brings me satisfaction. Other times it's like a complete rebuild of the only thing that really remained was the uppers. Everything else is brand new. For example, you're bringing in a pair of sandals that are just like this like beigey color. They've gotten really dirty, but then, you know, I'm convincing you, like, let's dye them chili red, you know? And like just that kind of like sprucing up really like, I think is where we stand out to just show people like what's doable. It's a very male-dominated trade, and I remember even going to a cobbler shop and sort of introducing myself and offering just to be there to clean the space. I just wanted to be around that energy and the tools, and the gentleman shook my hand, and, you know, I ended up touching my forearm, kind of being like, you're not strong enough, so I don't think this is going to work. I had a difficult time like finding someone that was willing to take me on, and that's why when I took over Soul Survivor, it was so important for me to like give female and female identifying people a chance to really be in a safe space that they can like find themselves like I did, because I found that there weren't a lot of spaces out there like that. I'm still learning, so really every day we come across problems or like fun situations that we're just like, how would we do it this time, you know, let's experiment. And so it is a job where we're always learning and creating, so the team really does get better with time and us doing the work together. A lot of the tools that I use are like 50 to 100 years old. I'm like, wow, I can't believe like I'm using this tool that's been around for so long, probably used by all these other shoemakers, and I'm still using it to like keep it up. But at the same time, like it's my job and I do it every day. So it's almost like you kind of take it for granted, realizing what you're actually doing, right? You forget like your hands just did that, you know, you just repaired these 50 pairs of shoes and people get to like walk out in them and you're part of their life. So this is where all of the magic happens. These all here are our trusty sewing machines. We've got this bad boy here, it's called a walking foot. This usually is used for, you know, like quilting leather or like any type of thick materials, but we use this on the daily basis, and we always joke that when she's running, you love to hear her purr because that's when you know she's working really well. And then we've got our trusty post machine. So this is a classic shoemaker's machine. This is where the uppers get sewn on. We were actually gifted this one from another local shoemaker. I think we are now the third generation of shoemakers that, you know, and cobblers that are using this, which I always love the story behind machines like that. I always call this our dining table because this is where everything happens. The team just kind of sits around the table. Well, actually, we all stand most of the time, where we, you know, prep the shoes, you know, dye them, do all of that. Over here, we sort of have the hammering station. This is usually the area that I'm in because I can handle a lot of the the heavy workload, and I love doing it, and I'm a little bit faster at it than my staff. And then this is my like prized possession hammer. So this hammer was gifted to me from the previous owner of Soul Survivor. It's dented up so much, it's changed the curve of hammering like thousands of souls for 11 years. When we moved from Kensington, the handle, the original handle, broke, and I was devastated. I was like, I don't have a hammer, and I love this hammer. And then my partner, who was dabbling around with some wood, lathed me this hammer post, and I love the hammer even more now. She hasn't been named, but maybe I should. We do love naming our machines here, which I will now introduce you to Jill Sander. We call her Jill Sander because she's a female and she sands, and she's a beast. She's really a workhorse and has done a lot of repair, and she's quite loud, which we think suits our environment because we are also very loud as females here. This bad boy here is called a 5-in-1. The joke between many shoemakers and cobblers is that we all only know 4 things that it can do, and no one can figure out what the 5th thing is. But pretty much it can press soles, it can skive and slice leather, it can cut the soles, and I guess I've only named 3, so I really don't know what the other 2 are, but maybe mine's not an original 5-in-1. It never resonated with me whenever people said like, oh, you work in a dying trade, because one, I'm working in it, so I know for sure that like it's not dead. Trying to like revive things that have been around for so long, I think that's what gives us a new breath of life, really, to like be able to continue in this trade. And especially with like everyone sharing their knowledge too now, whereas before I felt like, you know, old time shoemakers or cobblers would sort of see you as a competition if you'd come and ask them questions. And now, you know, you have YouTube University, like everyone's sharing all the knowledge out there. Maybe a rejuvenating craft, but I think it's ironic that our name is Soul Survivor, because we're just really trying to like survive like the trade and your souls, pun intended. We saw an influx of like new customers coming in and people being really interested in like, oh, like these boots belong to my grandfather, you know, and they're still in good condition, I think. Can you help me make them feel more like my boots? And that we know. But now also, I think since then, everything's started to like move much faster and people do want things much quicker. So we have to always kind of educate our customers of like, you know, what we do takes time and we can't rush it. We're not a factory. And if shoes have lasted for like 3 decades, they might even last for another 3. They just need a sprucing up. Following brands that have been around for a very long time is so important. Like understanding like what their ethics are and how they're making their footwear is so important. We have customers sometimes texting us while they're shopping saying, can you look at this boot? Is this really like worth that money, or is this constructed this way? And we tell them because we know that customer is going to come back then with that boot and get it repaired. Normally, Goodyear welted shoes will use all leather uppers, leather soling, and then just have like a rubber heel and maybe a rubber half sole attached to it. And then you can see the stitches through the whole sole. And that's a good indicator that this boot was really made up to the standards. Well-made shoes usually start at like $350 to $400, and that's a lot of money for some to like really invest in right away. But I always try to like let them know that if you buy that boot that costs that much, the repair that's coming in will only be probably like $40 to like $60. Whereas like you bring me a shoe that's $80, the repair might actually cost you $200. So these are some of the brands that are extremely popular that we get on a constant. This particular brand is called Margiela, and this style of shoe is called the tabby. So it has like the tabby toe here. They're quite expensive, so it's really important that people like protect the soles on them, and that's where we come in, and we love working on them. People love seeing videos of how we, you know, prepare the soles and cut into them. It really brings us joy to work on them. We get excited as a team when like the really popular kind of styles come in. And then we have one customer who brings us these really cool Japanese sandals called Geitas. And he has a different variety of them, ones with 2 stills, 1 still. I love to show people that we can work on footwear that doesn't seem like your everyday type of shoe. So here's a good example of a shoe that, you know, someone really doesn't want to get rid of and they love, and they've As you can tell, they're well worn. And this is where we come in. All of this is rebuildable. I remember this customer sort of sharing the story that they've had these for 10 plus years, can't let them go, can't find another pair like this. They've really worn them in. And I think there is something to be said where sometimes for us, especially when we had the retail space, customers would come in and, almost unload their worries on us. They would drop off their shoes and then out of nowhere it would be half an hour later and it's been a therapy session. When our location was in Kensington Market, we were surrounded by all these amazing vintage stores. And so now some of the owners still bring us a lot of their repairs. And we had gotten these vintage hiking boots. They were heavy as a brick, but made all out of leather. So the soling was stacked leather, the uppers were leather, and I think they were maybe about 80 years old. Very, very cool. The metal was just slightly rusted. The leather was a little bit brittle, so we really had to give it a gentle attention to it. But we thought it was fascinating that people climbed in this and perhaps maybe even Mount Everest, but they were clumpy type of leather shoes. And now anyone that wants to hike, they want have light breathable hiking shoes. And back then people really I don't want to say suffer through, but they really wore leather shoes for everything, Sunday best, but also then construction and whatnot. And I'm always asked what type of shoe would you make? Who are you as a designer? And I'm so baffled by that question. So I want to dabble in that world a little bit more. And I'm excited to see where it takes me and what I can share then with the world. I kind of want to break the barrier of having to be so traditional with the shoemaking aspect. What repair has taught me is that you don't have to always follow all the steps you've been taught. You can kind of, not necessarily cut corners, but you can use a different material or a different tool to get to that same outcome. So we've been in business for 11 years, and throughout the years, we've always changed. On the second year of owning the business, we had 2 locations. At one point, we had 13 staff. But I think sometimes when you grow really big, you kind of miss the whole point of why you started something or why you're doing something. And then, of course, with the pandemic happening and us having to, again, pivot as a business on how can we sustain staying in this environment where we don't know what's happening, right? We decided to move into a private studio, shared with my partner who's an artist, and it's been working out so well for us. It's brought a new perspective of slowing down, really paying attention to the work and offering better quality. At the same time, I've started to think a little bit more creatively as well of what I want to do every day. So the slowing down has been really good for us as a team, and it's created more space and time that we can focus on bigger and better projects. I'm very hopeful for the future, and I'm so excited for what's to come. We just recently became the authorized cobbler of a very large brand that I can't name as of yet because they'll announce it. And on top of that, we want to offer workshops with the team, which we're so excited for, and as well custom bespoke footwear of some sort, and perhaps even doing more collaborations with other artists is something that we're really looking forward to.
North America is obsessed with highways. We keep building more and more of them, but that comes with a cost, and not just a financial one. More lanes equals more land and more impacts to the natural wildlife. So how do we deal with that? Well, here in Northern Ontario, there's an interesting solution to that problem. What you see behind me is a highway bridge, but it was never meant for humans to use it. Welcome to the Killarney Animal Overpass. The roads connecting Northern Ontario are, in many places, out of date. There's still spots on the main highway between Sudbury and Toronto where it's just one lane in each direction. There have been massive upgrades in recent years. Now, when you're going down 69, it looks a little more like this for much of its length. The rest of the highway is supposed to get the 4-lane treatment in the coming years, and when it does get built, it'll be done in a slightly different way. Twinning highways has its advantages and challenges. Supporters say they're easier to drive on, they're safer in some ways, and they help people get to their destinations faster. However, there are some disadvantages as well. Higher speeds make crashes more severe. People who feel safe on a roadway are also more inclined to take risks. Plus, having better roads kind of reinforces this whole car-dependent society we have. Then there's physical effects of twinning a highway. Twinned roads take up more than twice the space of a regular road. That causes more impacts to the natural environment.
My name's Sean Doyle. I'm a postdoctoral fellow at Memorial University, and I study the different ways that humans affect wildlife. If animals might be moving from one place to another before that road was in existence, now there's this barrier in place that if they might not want to cross, or there's a risk of crossing, then it can cut off populations, it can cut off resources that those animals needed to access.
That creates a dangerous situation, both for animals and drivers. One solution to this is an eco-passage. Eco-passages are things that help animals get around the barriers that humans create. The idea of eco-passages isn't new, but they're not usually as spectacular as the animal bridge. In fact, there's one a few steps behind me. Can you spot it? Until 2012, most eco-passages in Ontario used modified road construction elements like drainage culverts. They were meant to help vulnerable species like snakes and turtles, which have a higher rate of dying on the roads. But culverts tend to be small and confined, except for the massive oversized one behind me that is purpose-built as a large wildlife underpass. But with small culverts, animals either couldn't fit inside or didn't feel comfortable using them. The other option was to bring them into the open air and use a bridge.
I'm Carrie Gunson. I started a business in road ecology, and I mainly look at how to connect wildlife across roads so they can access habitat. We found that the overpass was the most used structure by the ungulates, which is moose and deer, and black bears used it a little bit more, but they also didn't mind using the neighboring underpass. We also had a higher frequency of lynx as the monitoring increased over time.
This is the first animal overpass in Ontario, but it's not the first one in Canada. In 1996, Banff National Park added its first 2 animal overpasses. Since then, it's added many more crossings. Some people were against the idea originally. They said it would cost too much money and it wouldn't help animals like they had promised. Researchers in Banff proved those people wrong, and after a 10-year study on this bridge, they found similar results.
There was an overall large animal decrease of wildlife vehicle collisions, about 70%. So that includes the moose and the deer and the black bear. We had the greatest reduction in collisions with moose.
This isn't the only eco-passage in the area. As you saw earlier, just up the road, there's a large animal underpass. In other spots along a river, there's a place for animals to walk underneath the highway bridge. And in other places, crews have improved drainage culverts so that animals are more likely to use them.
We are at Shepherd's Lake on Highway 69, and this culvert was put here for water, but it was upsized for turtles to allow more light in. It's the largest tunnel I know that was built for turtles in the world. We have had no roadkill along this stretch. I'd say for turtles it's 3 kilometers since we've been maintaining it. So 100% functionality with no holes. Simple.
Studies have shown that eco-passages are a good idea in general, but as always, there's a catch. They have to be very well maintained, or else they could end up doing more harm than good.
It can have a really, really strong impact on the population in a good way. And if it's done poorly, it can have a bad impact on the population as well.
Eco-passages can only be truly effective if they're planned and built properly. There were elk living in this area, but they've moved farther north since the highway expansion. This bridge has reduced large animal crashes by quite a bit, and that's great. But the wildlife fencing that drives the animals onto the bridge ends just a few kilometers to the north. At those places where the fence ends, animals are more likely to try to cross the roads, and it can make those spots more dangerous than the average stretch of road. Building fencing and eco-passages is expensive, but there's a cost to not doing anything either.
There's a break-even point with the number of collisions per 1 kilometer of highway, and the cost of those collisions with the number of injuries, fatalities, and property damage. You add that all together, And you can look at the cost of putting the crossing structure and the fencing in. So in some sections of road, that break-even point would happen sooner. And I think the responsibility is definitely there with building new roads and as we upgrade our roads.
That idea of responsibility is something that's becoming more common in projects of all kinds. As humans, we do have a major impact on wildlife, and it even comes back to affect us with things like higher crash rates. But that's not to say that these animal safety measures should just be for humanity's sake.
Highway 11 bisects conservation reserves, and there's 2 conservation reserves with endangered species on each side of the highway, and we know they're getting killed on Highway 11. That's a no-brainer. As I was driving up, there's more fencing. It's going to be continuous right to Parry Sound, pretty much. Yeah, with the twinning. Yeah. It's going to be the most heavily mitigated highway for wildlife probably in the world, because it's like we have everything here.
There's a symbolic value to this bridge. It's a monument of sorts to the changing relationship between humans and the natural world. It set a new standard for environmental responsibility, and other projects are following its example. This is the plan for an eco-passage in Windsor, Ontario. It's designed to help several species at risk avoid deadly roadways. But within all of this, these eco-passages are still reflective of North America's car dependency.
So mitigation strategies are second to think about. First, we need to think about having alternative methods of transportation rather than highways, and making it easier, more accessible for people to use these things. If they're going to build highways, this is the cost of building the highways.
North American society does need to become less car dependent, but that's going to be the hardest to do in rural and northern communities. Until then, reducing the impact of our growing transportation needs is going to become more important and more common. This bridge was the first one in Ontario to do just that, and it's a part of Canada's living history.
Tomorrow on the agenda, it would certainly behoove the Tories to want to go to the polls before, I'm not saying they will be, but if possible charges are laid, you'd want to go to the people before any of that was out there.
Better to go earlier than later.
Correct. That's tomorrow on the agenda.